Hey guys, in this video I'll be covering the Gears and Gambits minigame in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth hard mode difficulty, and this video will show you one setup that can complete all 4 stages of the hard difficulty with the same strategy. So you don't need to tweak the Gambits as you go along or adjust the strategy, just use the same approach and you can win all 4 stages with time to spare. I've tested it multiple times and it worked every single time. Now, just quick note about the normal difficulty in case you are still having difficulty on it. And I did also actually find it challenging at the start until I changed my strategy. Essentially, the setup that I have is an all-out offense. If you notice the Gambits, there isn't any healing or defensive Gambit at all across the entire 3 units. My portal skills are also fully offensive. There's no defensive portal skills at all. And you can use the same strategy for normal difficulty as I mentioned. Normal difficulty is in fact even easier. Obviously, in normal difficulty, you won't have some of the Gambits. For example, you don't have the Aga shots, the Blizzaga, Firaga, and Tundaga shots. So what you just have to do for normal difficulty is replace the tier 3 shots with just the Gambit targeting foe, and then you just replace it with the standard Lariat action, but you have to place it at the bottom. So again, for normal difficulty, if you still want the same approach, just switch this to foe, switch this to Lariat, and then shift this all the way to the bottom for all 3 units. And that should take you through the entire normal difficulty. You can also, of course, use the AI Gambit. I didn't even try that, but I suppose that if they give you the option, it should work for normal difficulty. So anyway, coming back to the hard mode difficulty, quick explanation about the setup. It's all fully offensive. Now, for all 3 units, first of all, I have the Elemental Weakness Priority Blizzaga shot. And for these extras or special actions, for the first unit here, the T1 robot, I have the condition for Blizzaga shot is when the HP less than 50%. And that's mainly because the self-modifying Gambit has the first robot with lesser HP than the others. So taking one attack essentially brings it to less than half health and will trigger Blizzaga shot. The first robot also has the shock skill, and it's used when it's currently targeted by 2 foes. The shock skill, you can actually give it to any of the 3 robots. I don't think it really matters. It just so happens that it's on my first robot, but I do think that you should set it. It's a waste not to use it. And I place it as highest priority so that the first robot would likely use shock anytime it's targeted by 2 foes. For the other 2 robots though, they have more HP because I have the self-modifying Gambit that increases their HP. And so because of that, for their Aga shots, instead of having less than 50% health, I give them, if they survive 30 seconds or more, they will use their respective tier 3 shots. Yeah, so same goes for the Tundaga shot as well. With the additional HP, it shouldn't be very difficult for them to last more than 30 seconds. And the strategy that I take across all 4 stages is I quickly just spam robots whenever they are available. Even on the hard mode stage where you can only deploy limited number of robots. The number of robots they allow is way more than you need to win the stage anyway, so you might as well just deploy as soon as you can with the ATB bars. Now below their respective tier 3 shots, I also have the standard tier 1 shot, which is Blizzard shot, Fire shot, and Thunder shot. And it's the same thing, Elemental Weakness Priority is the Gambit that I take. This is actually very important rather than full weak to an element. The difference between these two is that if you select Elemental Weakness Priority, they will use the Elemental shot if there is an enemy weak to it and that enemy takes higher priority, but they will still use their Elemental shot even if the enemy is not weak to it. The only difference here is that with elemental weakness priority, whenever they can hit weakness, they will try to target weakness. Because of this, you don't need to use any non-elemental shot as well. Yes, it's true that their shots are limited in number of users, but they don't really last that long anyway. So before they use up all their ammo, they will likely die, so you just replace with new robots. So in that way, you don't need to set any normal shots. Finally, and this is very, very important, across all 3 robots, you need to set an airborne full priority, and you need to split the 2 gravity shots and 1 missile across the 3 robots. Make sure that every single robot have the airborne full priority and one of the either gravity shot or missile. Equally important, you must set the airborne full priority lowest in the queue. Obviously, the self-modify doesn't really matter, you can place this anywhere because there's no action tied to this. But the airborne full priority has to be lowest across your red gambits. Do not set it higher than the other 3. I also set all the self-modify HP and cost, all 4 of them, because I feel that they are actually quite important. They make your robot stronger and last for the hard mode difficulty. With that said, I'll jump into all 4 battles in this video, but I will only comment it likely on the first, maybe the second video, just to show you the strategy that I took, because it really is the same across all 4 stages. Let's jump into the match. Alright, so starting up, and this goes for all 4 stages, wait until the first enemy unit spawns, and then just select the elemental unit that counters it. To know which enemy unit counters the unit, you can see when you go through your list of 3 units, there's a blue exclamation mark that appears next to the enemy elemental symbol. That shows that you're picking the right unit. Alternatively, just pick the same color robot as the enemy color symbol, so yellow if they are thunder weak and red if they are fire weak, and so on. Try not to let your ATB bar build too much as well. You can maybe save like a little bit in reserve just in case you need to quickly deploy units, but generally speaking, you want to deploy units as soon as maybe you hit close to half your ATB bar at the bottom left. That is because many of your tier 3 gambits require your robot to last for 30 seconds or more, and obviously if they are on the field early, when there are no enemy units present, they quickly hit their 30 second and will use their tier 3 shot. This goes especially well deploying units on the lane where there are no enemy units, so this way your unit goes straight for the boss and eventually they will use the tier 3 shot on the boss. And that's really essentially it for all 4 stages. Now there is also of course one of the 4 hard mode stages where the boss will lock out one of your 3 elemental units. I think that's the 4th stage. You can refer to the 4th stage video segment later on this video to see how I did it, but essentially if one of your units are locked out, just deploy the unit that is neutral to the enemy units that spawn. You will also still use your missiles on the enemy unit even if they are not weak. As you can see here, I'm already now finishing the boss on the first stage. I still have a lot of time to spare. Now here I'm using I wanted to use the portal shots, but didn't need to. The portal skills you save when there are more enemy units that are about to spawn. Maybe I'll cover on round 2 as well, a little bit of video commentary because the first round ended pretty quickly. For round 2, the restriction here is that at any time you can only have 2 of each robots, but this is actually I think probably the easiest among all 4 stages, because this means that you can have up to 6 robots up in the field, and that's more than enough. As long as you deploy robots that counter the enemy's elemental. Again, look at the blue exclamation mark on top of the enemy symbol, that shows that you are deploying the right robot. you should very easily win the battles and eventually work on the bosses, and having 6 robots across all 3 lanes would work very well. Something I forgot to mention on the first round, apologies for that, is that at most only have 3 robots per lane. Do not deploy a 4th robot, because deploying a 4th robot will trigger the boss's Gambit, where it uses a more powerful attack, and you quickly lose robots that way. So once you have 3 robots on one lane, just switch to another lane and then deploy robots there. Here you see me use the portal skill. This is why I select the offensive portal skill. Across all 4 hard mode stages, when the boss passes a certain HP threshold, it will call for reinforcements, and this is really probably the best time to use the portal skills, and it will quickly kill the add-ons that spawn. Now some of the minions with the crown on their head typically skip past your units and go straight for your portal. And across all 4 stages, you may lose some HP on your portal, but it shouldn't be too bad. As long as you select units that deal weakness damage, even the enemy units with the crown on top of their head will die pretty quickly. That's it for round 2 with 1 minute plus to spare. Boss will die very quickly here because all lanes are attacking the boss. For round 3, the restriction here is that you have a small time gap between each time you deploy a robot, but you can still deploy robots of other elements, so it isn't too bad of a restriction. Just again go for the same strategy, apply robots that deal elemental weakness, and you should have enough time even with the interval. So if an enemy unit spawns and you still have the cooldown on your robot, just wait for the cooldown to finish and select the elemental, the appropriate elemental for the fight. The whole setup I have focuses on doing elemental weakness damage, so it is worth it to wait for the cooldown.
Just one? Yeah. Oh, first time. Yeah, I do it.
Again, when the boss is low enough, the boss will summon reinforcements, so just spam your portal skills to quickly clear the way so that your robots can continue attacking the boss. stage 4 is probably the most tricky one across the entire 4 stages, because across the entire match here, one of your robots will be locked out depending on which elemental the boss is. And so there are times when you won't be able to hit weakness damage, but that's okay. If your unit is locked out and you can't hit weakness damage, deploy the robot that is neutral. How do you know whether it's neutral or not? If you select the robot and there's a red exclamation mark on the left of the minion's health bar, that means that your unit is weak. If there are no exclamation marks at all, that means that your unit is neutral. So just pick the neutral units if you can't pick the weak units, and that's all that you need to do. You'll still be able to clear the stage very comfortably. If you need to, you can also use the portal skills early on to kill off enemy units that you have trouble dealing with, but for the most part you should be fine. And that's it. So stage 4 done, and I still have roughly a minute left to go. And this was probably the hardest stage across all 4 stages. Hope this video helps. Thanks for watching.